So we'll continue with our third speaker session, and which will be taken by Mr. Vibhuti Channa, who is a director with Vrindian Ventures. Let me give you a brief intro about him. So Vibhuti has a total of 25 years of experience covering on ground field working and central level operations, leading business operations, marketing and strategic roles. He has worked in India and Southeast Asia across the FMCG, durables and luxury industry. He has worked across startup, mid-size and large companies, and he's currently associated as a director with Vrindian Ventures, and we're talking about the eSpark Vrindian support programs for early stage startups.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me behind? Is that all right, or do you want it to be louder?
Is it audible at the back?
Yes. Do you want it to be louder?
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, thanks very much. I'm going to make it a little anecdotal. How many of us over here learned to drive ourselves by robbing the dad's car or mobile or whatever? And how many went to a driving school? Yeah, so we've got both ends. And let me take the other end. How many of us thought we can cook and just started trying to peel a potato? And how many asked our wife or mom to help us? Yeah? So I'm taking two ends of the scale. Essentially the point I'm trying to make is that there are ways of learning things ourselves, and there's ways of learning things by taking help from people. And really that's the analogy for all our dreams. All of us here have a dream, or we think we have a dream, we want to make that a reality. The manifestation is a business, we want to make some money out of it. And we want to be successful. But the truth is that when we first started to sit in the car or the bike, you jerked because you never got the clutch and the accelerator right. And it took quite a while. When we peeled the first potato, we probably ended up peeling our thumb. Yeah? But the truth is that's the only way of learning. That's the only way of learning. Till you don't fall, you're never going to get it right. But what do we do in an accelerator? We actually sit and we help you. That's really what we are about in an accelerator. The format is of actually looking at people, anybody who's we're actually sector agnostic. And I'll give you a bit of a background before I launch what we do. Vrindian and Entrepreneurial Spark, we have a relationship and we run accelerator centers in India. Vrindian is a group which has interests in non-banking financial corporations, hospitality, PE funds, lots of stuff, and one of them is the Accelerator Center. Entrepreneurial Spark or eSpark is a British-based accelerator company. They run about 13 centers and have churned out about 600 plus companies with about an 88% success. What's the parameter of success? Essentially all those who've gone through the program are still trading, which frankly is a hell of a lot given what the reality is outside. We're all aware of it. I'm not going to get into it. But really what works for them is the program. And what's the program? It's an up to 18-month program. And why do I say up to 18? Because given the fact that we are sector agnostic, we've got people who may come with technology, we may come with people who say, I want to sell a jar of jam. There may be somebody who says, I want to go out and work with, cleaning water. Water is a huge issue, and there is huge amounts of poisoning. I want to make sure that the people get clean water to drink in the villages. So there's a huge range of people we work with who are in our centers, and that's why something in technology actually takes much shorter to go get up and running, and it should, because replication is so quick. But try designing a bottle for a jam. It takes a long time. So we allow for that flexibility. What happens when somebody gets onboarded, and I'm not going to get into the details, but essentially we look at people who have the drive, who have an interesting idea, and we say let's walk together and try and see how we make this a success. So at a point in time when somebody joins our program, you get what is called a dedicated enabler. Those are fancy words, but it's essentially somebody who's going to walk the journey with you. And the enabler, he or she, sits the first day and actually understands what your dream is. So for instance, if you're in Saket and you actually want to head off to Qutub Minar, it'll be a disaster if actually he turned you in the direction of India Gate. We have a problem at hand, both of us. So we spend a lot of time to try and understand what is it your business, what is it about you that you really want to do, because it's eventually about your dream as well, your aspirations. And then together we actually map out a journey, saying like, if I need to get to Qutub Minar, this is how I'm going to get to, these are the milestones, these are the timelines. And that's worked jointly with you. It's not like a push down, but it's somebody like a sounding board. It's like the guy who sits in the co-driver's seat, right? It's you who's driving. You're the one who turns the key on, not him. But he's telling you, look, there's a red light coming, there's a pedestrian crossing. Why don't you press the clutch, get the gear in neutral, and then gently press the brake. And that's what we do. So you make sure that the guy behind you doesn't come and hit bang you, or you've given the indicator. Now you don't stick hands out. Well, here you used to stick hands out. So this journey starts, as I said, it can go up to 18 months, but we try and say, look, the first 2 to 3 months is when you really take time to settle in, understand what the program is, and see how you want to get in with it. There are opportunities for seed funding, so who can join? People with ideas, people proof of concept, somebody who's a little further ahead. Depending on what stage you want to join in, we're happy to help you. There is obviously the support of mentors, there's support of service providers, I mean the usual stuff, you may want trademark to be registered, you may have service tax registrations, you may have sales tax. All those are realities of doing business. Somebody may want to print a leaflet. There is support to staff like, to services like that. You may want cloud services, there is support like that. You may want simple stuff of doing up a chart on how my business should be running in terms of different intervals, so there is software to provide support for that. Obviously office place, the usual stuff, please come sit in. There are people who say we want to work through the night because the software guys, the programming guys prefer completely no disturbance kind of a situation, all yours. Just use it like your own office place. At the end of the journey, what is it that we want? We obviously want your success. We want for seed investment to come into you. We want Series A investment to come into you, and eventually be investable. At a stage and point in time when you think you're ready to fly the coop, we are the happiest, because that means you're actually making money. That's what we want you to do. So that's the long and short of it. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. Those are conversations we can have offline, but if there are conversations, questions you may have, happy to answer.
I have 2 questions. So the first part is, what's in it for you? And the second bit is, what is your criteria when you take a startup on board? Because I'm sure you get a lot of applications for people who would need your support, but then you could, I don't know if you offer support to everybody, or if you don't, then what's the criteria in terms of how do you really choose that this is who really deserves my support versus somebody who doesn't? So I guess the qualifying criteria, and of course, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, what I do want to understand is, let's say, I know exactly what I would get out of it, but what's in it that's there for you? Why would you as a mentor would want to invest time in a startup like ours? That's typically the question.
You want an honest answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We actually want to help you. That's it. Okay, so we're a not-for-profit organization. There is no money that we can make out of it or invest in it. We're actually a not-for-profit organization. We generally want to believe and give back to society. Okay, what is it and how do we determine? Frankly, there are no, it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, tick kind of a thing. I think firstly we look at the person or the lady, the gentleman or the lady in question. Does he or she have the ability to go through the journey? It is a roller coaster. I think we'd be lying to ourselves to say that it just takes off. It doesn't. There are days which are not going to be good, and you have to have the ability to go through those days. So we look for somebody who has the resilience and the ability. We look at the idea. And there are times when when you have to be polite about it because the guy is very passionate about it, but frankly it's not going to fly. And I think it's important for yourself, because eventually it's your dream, it's your business, it's your energy, and someday maybe you want to go back and relook at it, churn it out. There's lots of it happening. So essentially these are the 2 things. And and we're not looking for perfection, because if you had something perfect, then what are we there for? We're not looking for we're looking for somebody who's got the energy and the drive, as I said, and a basically decent idea. If somebody says, I'm going to go take a walk in the moon, well, but so that's the way it is.
Any more questions?
Any particular startups which you have worked with?
So we've got about a dozen with us. What's your question in specific?
Any specific examples of startups which you have assisted with?
Yes, so there's somebody. There is somebody who's trying to, and I'll give the range to just say the kind of range we work with. There's somebody who's trying to work with millets. So quinoa, of course, has become very fashionable, but in India we've got enough and more of those. And the problem is that it's a bit of a chicken and egg. The farmer does not get a good procurement price from the government. So he sees no reason to grow that millet. There is none of us, if somebody told me, would you eat ragi ki roti? It's a very fashionable thing to eat it. Oh, I'm on a non-carb diet, I'm going to have ragi ki roti. I don't know if it's carb or not, but I'm just saying. But there is very limited potential. But here's a lady who's actually working with the farmers. She's working with the ladies. She's proven it to them that the millets are actually a lot more resilient to temperature, to climatic variations we are all going through these days, and therefore the reliability of an output for that season is higher. It's a great product. I've had it myself. It's the only cereal I've found which straddles both wheat and rice. So I've had a dalia kind of an equivalent made from that. It was fantastic. I couldn't tell. And I've had a poha equivalent. Two different cereal bases. You can't tell. So she's working with that. There's somebody who's working with literature. So frankly, after I left school, I never discussed literature with anybody. But whenever I meet him, we have 2 hour discussions. What he's doing is, and the genesis of this was very funny. His son was studying literature, and he found that he was doing English, but no Indian literature. And it kind of pained him, because after Premchand, frankly, there was nobody else. And Premchand isn't exactly exciting to read. And he kind of thought it through, and he said, look, is there nobody else writing literature in India anymore? Which is not true. So except, and I'm just taking names, please don't quote me out in today's environment, but except for a Shobha Day or a Amitabh Ghosh, a penguin would not look at them. It's a commercial thing for them. So what happens to a lot of people who are writing but don't have the platform? So he created, so he used technology as an enabler where people who are writing have an opportunity to post. And there are those who can go and download and read. So they're short stories, but he's keeping them language focused, local language. So it's Marathi, it's Gujarati, it's Tamil. Interesting, his maximum download for Gujarati, he's based in Ahmedabad centers. We have a center in Noida and in Ahmedabad. His maximum Gujarati downloads are actually from Bombay, not from Gujarat. Which is interesting because he's actually working on a smartphone platform. So obviously he's now trying to work on how does he get onto regular phones and all. So there's somebody who's doing that. There's somebody who's trying to figure out life for parents with young kids. Both parents working, kindergarten admissions, you got to run to 20 schools, standing in the line in the sun. How can he make life simpler for them?
A centralized admission portal.
Sort of a centralized admission portal. So he's working on that. So these are 2, 3. I mean, there are lots I could go on, but it's a range.
Any more questions?
Sir, what's your take on manufacturing startups?
Sorry?
Manufacturing startups. Startups in manufacturing.
Yes.
So do you mentor startups?
Absolutely. The lady who's doing this millet thing I mentioned to you, it's not strictly manufacturing in that sense, but yeah, she's got to get into packaging, food approvals, FSSAI, all of that.
So we've got F&B support as well, like if someone wants to do an F&B startup, we've got support.
Yes, so there's somebody who's wanting to serve breakfast in a relatively fancier format on the street side. So most of us actually skip breakfast. We all know how good it is, how we should have it, all of that. Mama said so, wife says so, whatever, but we never do it. So he's trying to figure out how to do it on the street in a manner that's hygienic, practical, realistic. So obviously there's issues of a kitchen, there's issues of hygiene because you're on the street.
And packaging is a major. It's
Packaging, perishability, all of that, he's doing that. So to your question, depending on what area you are, obviously none of us can be specialists in whatever. So we've put this person in touch with F&B specialists and they're guiding him on how to do it. The lady with the millet one, we put her in touch with sourcing people, put her in touch with the organic people, because this whole organic movement is happening about that.
And something special for women entrepreneurs.
Yes, we do. So this is a lady. We've actually got
Is there a
4
program?
ladies. No, I don't differentiate the same.
Actually, we are doing a session with Vrindian on 28th.
So we're doing a separate one for women entrepreneurs, Saturday 2 down,
28th.
at our 28th of May,
June, 28th of May. So
In,
2 weeks from now.
in our office in Jasola. It's on our website, is on our Facebook page as well. So
Applications are still on and women entrepreneurs can apply.
I'll spread the
15, there will be 15 entrepreneurs will be shortlisted. And one of the mentors is Vibhuti himself. There are 2 more mentors who will be guiding the women entrepreneurs in case they have some issues. You can just log on to their website and just apply. Any more questions from the audience? Okay.
thank you.
Oh, there's one.
Sorry. Yes. I'll have to understand that. I mean, I'll
Oh, he's actually
Yes. So he's saying he's got a domain name.
Okay.
It's an e-commerce site, and he wants to build a business. So obviously, I'll have to sit and understand a little closely on what your business is, which area you want to go into, and then if you need to get specialist service from an e-commerce thing or somebody to build a website, we'll put you in touch with them. Yeah.
What is the help that you're looking out at? What is the specific question?
Website.
Okay. Any more questions? That is good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
So we have our last session for the day, which is a lightning pitch by Mr. Channa from Karthik. He's not here yet.